So it's in between, and we're trying to figure out, when you do 2 weeks at once, what do you talk about? And Sean called me a liar because I do own one of the Game of Thrones books.
Just hasn't read it.
I've not read it. I tried to listen to the audiobooks, and I was kind of like, yeah, okay. I really enjoyed that series for quite a while. I thought it was very well
The book
done.
series or the show?
The show. I enjoyed the show for quite a while.
Yeah.
Until they got past the source material.
Yeah, well, and it just seemed like at that point they were all kind of done with it, and they wanted to move on to other projects. And I get that. The funny thing for them is they've lost every project effectively that they've signed on to afterwards.
Really?
Well, they had a Star Wars project and they
lined up.
lost it. And I think
Is that because of the ending of the show?
I actually think that may have been why they lost
Wow.
it. Is because it was kind of like, oh, you guys kind of
Shit to
didn't
bed.
care enough to see it through to completion. We don't
Right.
want to give you our franchise. So have there ever been, and especially you guys with comic books, you read a lot of comic books. Sean reads a lot of books. I don't know if you do read books very much, Richard? I really don't either. Have there ever been comic book series that you were so thrilled about that you then saw a movie or a TV show adaptation that was better than what you expected, worse than? I mean, where do you come in with that whole thing? Do you walk into an adaptation and go, it better be exactly what it is?
No, but you know what? I think one of the perfect examples of that is Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, because it's been a radio play, it's been a book, it's been a TV show, it's been a movie, it's been a game, it's been an audio book, but every one of them is different than the other one. No one is a straight adaptation of the other thing. So the book is not the movie. The book is not the audio. The book is not the video game.
Okay.
They're all the same thing, but they're all different, if that makes sense.
It is. So right now, one of the reasons I decided to ask this is that I told Shelley that I never read the book The Godfather. And I knew from having researched the fuck out of it, because loving Coppola, how much he did to fix the narrative. Shelley bought me the 50th anniversary print of it, which is beautiful because the cover of it is actually a stallion with its head cut off. And on the backside is the bloody head laying on it, which I love. That's like a beautiful book cover. But as I read it, you think, of course, yes, it's very different from the standpoint that you get the character's thoughts, and you can't do that in a film. But it's one of those where you read it, and I'm like, Coppola understood how to tell a better version of this story than this book.
Oh, my God. I finally went back and read it because I hadn't ever read it before, but The Prestige, the book that it's based off of, completely different.
Is it really?
Yeah.
That was the Nolan.
Yeah.
They made two magic
The
movies.
Illusionist was the other
That's
one.
right. Thank you.
It's been a minute since I've read it or watched it, so I don't remember much about it entirely, but I do remember reading the Green Mile chapter book series
Yeah,
when
I
he was
remember
releasing
that.
it from
When it was
coming
coming
out
out.
weekly or every monthly, whatever it was, and then watching the movie and realizing that these were stories based upon the same content but somewhat different in terms of their tone and the way they're executed, and I actually liked both of them equally.
Yeah.
Even though they weren't identical rip of one
Well,
or the
that's
other.
kind of like The Shining as well. Where the book is Jack, where the movie is Jack is always a little bit crazy from the beginning, and the movie is Jack is recovering alcoholic, and the place is haunted and drives him crazy.
See, after having read the book, I cannot watch the Kubrick version anymore
I know,
because
'cause
it's
it's not-
very one note.
Yeah.
It is. He is
Crazy
cuckoo
from the
pants
beginning.
from the very beginning, where the other is, and King talking about he wanted to explore falling into addiction. That was what and when you know that story's there and you go back, it's like, well, he's just an asshole from the beginning. He's going to be a psychopath. And visually, it's an amazing movie. It just, man, it is literally like listening to speed metal with a Cookie Monster guy scheming.
But unfortunately, then if you go watch the Steven Weber remake of The Shining, where they stick to the book, it is not nearly as good.
No, and
But that was also done a 2-night TV budget thing. Yeah.
And so it's where The Godfather is a very good book, but so if you ever pay attention to The Godfather, they'll talk about how Sonny, even the women talk about that he has an enormous schlong. There's one point where one of them goes, what I'm doing is making my hands go
Bigger,
further and
bigger.
further. That in that book must be said like 63 times how big his schlong is and how he's fucking around. And apparently, I haven't gotten to this, but there's a point where some woman feels that her vagina is destroyed from it and goes to see a doctor to get it fixed. I know that's somewhere in. So there are those things within books that you can explore that you do not need in films. I think The Shining could be a great movie if somebody would explore that slow descent into hell.
What did you think about Mr. or Doctor Sleep?
I liked it.
Yeah, I mean,
I liked it as well.
That was like the melding of being a sequel to both the book and the movie.
And I thought he was pretty. So it's Mike Flanagan, who also did Hill House, Haunting of Hill House. And what was his vampire one? Midnight Mass.
Yeah.
I think when he's but I still think when he's on point, he's pretty good at how to build horror. And I thought what he did with Doctor Sleep, I thought that was almost genius to say, I love both of them, and I want to bring them together and somehow make them work. I actually liked it so much that I bought the extended cut of it, and I think that's even a better film.
I actually do think it's a good, better film. What I wanted out of the Doctor Sleep was I actually wanted a television show. I hope somebody does that at some point, so I can actually explore
him doing
these
more
characters
stuff.
a lot more. Yeah, I wanted to explore more of this world and this and who these people
Though
are.
I don't think you're ever going to find a better Rose the Hat than Rebecca Ferguson, who's also the mother in Dune.
Yeah.
Because, if you go back and read the description of her in the book, did you either of you ever read the book?
Yeah, I've read the book.
It is that she is supposed to be enchanting and the most hauntingly beautiful person. And Rebecca Ferguson is one of those rare creatures on this earth that just you don't find blemishes with her appearance. She's gorgeous. And I believe her as Rose the Hat. So I'm like, you can remake it. Just get her to play it again.
bring her back in for that. Yeah,
because it's the same thing as having loved Dune. There's another adaptation. That's a book that I read so often. And you can't make that movie.
With
That
so
book
much
into a
internal
movie.
dialogue.
Oh my God, it's so much about that. However, I think what Denis Villeneuve did with that was to find the essence of, and especially to split it apart. And there are so many people that bitch about, it's a story about a young boy hitting puberty is what that movie is about. He's learning to be a man. And I think when you do those things, filmmakers that do it, you can make it even better in its own way.
Well, I mean, we're clearly talking about a movie that has a director that we admire for some of his early stuff that has kind of gone off the tracks, and he's definitely somebody that I feel like Tim Burton over time has definitely strayed from his ability to actually do these adaptations well. And I don't know what happened, if that's just who he is or where he went or whatever. I find that a lot of the Netflix adaptations of books and classic television shows and comics to also be off point, just not quite work. And I'm not sure what it is about. Netflix can do some great original content, but a lot of the stuff that I feel like they've done themselves from pulling from other source material.
Do you have an example?
Yeah, Lock and Key.
I'd never watched that.
Lock and Key.
And I've never read the books
Mark
either.
Miller.
If you hadn't asked me, I could have told you.
What about Umbrella Academy?
Jupiter's Legacy.
Jupiter's Legacy, Lost in Space.
Lost in Space. I literally got to the last season. I watched 1/3 of the first episode and I said, I can't watch this. I've never finished it.
Yeah. So Umbrella Academy is okay. The episodes are way too long.
They veer off way from the source material.
Yeah, it's.
Oh, by the way, you see that Batman got picked up by Amazon?
I did. I was very happy about that. Batman is a great example of how you can take.
Well, you can veer off from the source material if you do it right.
Well,
you can do an Elseworlds.
But Batman also has such a long history going from the Bill Finger stuff to even let's jump all the way to Frank Miller. They're two very different takes on how to tell that story, and so there are a lot of eras to pull from. But why can't you create your own era as long as you're true to it? And I think The Last of Us, I've never played the game, but then whenever I listen to that podcast about the making of, and they're talking this last episode, that it is literally almost pulled from the game. You say this works beautifully, keep it. But then, hey, there's a character we barely mentioned. Let's develop it here.
Him, yeah.
And I think that to me, that's how you do adaptation: is you find the things that stay true to your theme, because they said The Last of Us is about one thing and one thing only: love. And is what will you do to protect the things you love?
Yeah,
and I think if you stay true to that, you can usually make it good.
Last of Us is certainly a show that I wish they knew they were getting more seasons early out the gate and could spend a little more time, because tonight will be the last episode and it'll be the last of the game. It's supposed to be the end of the first game.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
But they may only want to do 2 seasons.
But I would have loved to have a little more
breathing
between these things rather than the evolution of it moving this quickly through the first season. We didn't necessarily have to have a 12 episode series, but maybe we do 2 miniseries of 2 seasons of a 6 and a 6 or an 8 and an 8 so I can get more of this first game.
I think we've talked about it before, but there's supposed to be a 2-hour cut of that third
we did.
episode.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So the whole adaptation thing, and you guys know this, that Abby and I will often, it's one of the ways I stay connected with her while she's in Colorado is we watch the same things and we get together and we talk about it. And she had read the book of Daisy Jones and the Six. Have either of you heard about
I
that?
know it's on
We
Amazon,
talked about
but
this,
I
didn't
haven't.
we? Briefly?
So
Or
it's,
maybe not in the in-between, but we talked about it.
it's about, I think there's 6 episodes now. No, they did 3 and I think they just released another 3. And it's one of those, what I appreciate about it is it looks like they're just doing one season. And it's
Okay.
like, we're going to adapt
One
it
and done.
over, I think, like 10 episodes, and we're going to tell that. Now, it's where in an adaptation, I almost wish they would either give me an extra 2 episodes to what you're saying, because there are some secondary characters like the drummer who ends up being almost like Limbo, where he's just punchline boy. I don't find anything about his story, and I asked Abby, it's in those books. I guess I don't understand why people will extract things out. You know, like, hey, I don't need to tell his story. If my story, like Last of Us, is about love, find every character that I can and tell those stories. How I think the reason Last of Us is great is even the bad guys have a reason that they're doing what they're doing. They're trying to perpetuate their version of the world, and it's not about that they're evil or enemies. It's that's what, when you strip away society's norms, that's the world they created. Moving on from adaptations, what else? There's got to be things. This cannot be the shortest in between ever, besides the fact that we have been together now for about 3 hours.
What are you doing with your camera over there?
I was seeing if JJ took Gertie to the park or not. She's gone.
This ability with your camera technology to spy on your family house spouses, it gets a little creepy to me
It's not
sometimes.
spying.
Well, it's funny because
Yeah, but I if I were walking, I wouldn't know Chris is watching me walk to my car. That'd kind of creep me out a little bit. I mean, he could look out the window. It would be okay, but it's something, the fact that he's actually checking on.
Do y'all use Live 360 or anything like that?
We don't
too?
have anything in our house in terms of like.
That's just an app that
Okay,
just
no.
So we got Live 360 because obviously we have a kid and we want to know where she is. But now it does become, we all kind of check with each other. And just a week ago, because it tracks from my watch too, and Shelly does not check it, and she's freaked out. She comes home. I'd gone on a walk late in the day. Well, I'm home early. Where are you? And I was like, Jesus Christ. Why don't you check Live
Why'd you
360
look? Yeah.
and know where I am? But it's weird, because I even thought then, I thought, how weird that when she can't figure out how to find out where I am in the world, she fucking freaks, you know? And I like the idea that we know where each other is, but at the same time, I'm sure Abby probably wants to turn that shit off and not have us look at her, but she also knows I pay for your school. I get to know where the fuck you are.
Well, I like to know where JJ is when she's coming home so I can have things ready for her. So, like, the oven will be on and preheated so that she can start making dinner, or
This
I have her
is
drink
why I
sitting
tell
out
my
for her.
husband what I'm doing. I'm on the way home.
Well,
Well,
I'll
she
be home
also
in
tells
20.
me that too. But
but I would usually tell Shelly, hey, I'm going on my walk, but she was coming home early and she didn't tell me, so I didn't know to alert her, hey, I won't be home. That is so funny Sean says that, because when we get together and play video games, how many times do you get like, hang on, I gotta go turn the oven on?
Yep.
And it's literally, that is Sean's job in the world, just turn on the oven. Does JJ do all the cooking?
yeah, 95% of it.
Does she?
Yeah.
You guys split it,
Because
right?
she meal preps for herself on the week, and so she has her meals made
Right.
for the whole week.
Shelly and I split pretty evenly.
Yeah.
Shelly tends to make recipes and I tend to grill. But
I clean. Let me put it that way.
I
fair.
tend to do recipes and make food, and the nights that I work late, Chris tends to take the recipes that I have and assemble them.
that works. You know,
That makes sense.
There have been a lot of times where Shelly will be like, hey, you've got a meeting tonight. Could you at least cut all the stuff for the food and I'll make it when I get home? And so we'll do that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Except I swear she knows. I know there are people like myself where cutting an onion literally like puts you in a corner because your senses. I cry so horribly when I cut onions.
You know they make goggles you can wear to do that. Or also you can just quit being a little bitch.
Well, no, that is, I cannot control it. I have tried, and when I have tried anything like goggles, do you know what happens? The nose.
The goggles do nothing?
or it gets through my mouth, and then I can't breathe. And my allergies and the things that affect me, it just fuck me over so bad.
The goggles do nothing.
So tomorrow night will be tacos, and it's my taco recipe.
How do you do it on Monday? Why? Taco Tuesday.
just because of the time I get off work on Mondays. And what Chris will do is he will go ahead and cut all the vegetables we need so that I have that ready
That's
to
good.
go. We do a sweet potato, one pot sweet potato and chicken leg quarter. So that morning, what I will do is I will make the dry rub for the leg quarters, apply the dry rub. I will make the spice we use on the potatoes. And I used to make the recipe when I had more time, but because of my time, he will then cut the potatoes, put them in the pot. Gotcha. So he'll finish so he does cook.
Right.
But largely, with one or two nights exception, it's usually something that I've already kind of got going for him to finish.
Yeah, JJ will just make all her turkey, green beans, potatoes. If she's going to make me like pork chops for the week, she'll just cook it all on Sunday and then just serve it out as we go.
Yeah.
I'm cool with that. I've tried to get Shelly to do that, but Shelly's just way too... I don't know if I've ever told y'all the nickname. I call her Miss Hospital Corners, and it's from When Harry Met Sally, but it's true. Like, everything in her world is perfectly folded, and you can't make food that you're going to eat ahead. That is just not Shelly's way in this world.
Technically, aren't you making all your food to eat ahead?
Sean.
You're not cooking it and shoving it right in your face?
You know what I mean.
We don't own a microwave.
You don't?
No. So all of our food is prepared fresh. Unless it's something like a stew or something that we can reheat.
So do you not like microwaves and how they heat food, or is that just you've never bought
one? We
one?
have an old house that would catch on fire.
Oh, okay.
No, it
Yeah,
really...
You don't have a whole lot of counter space, too.
We don't have a lot of counter space either. Yeah, it's an older house. There's not a lot of counter space, and it was built in 1937, and a microwave, even just like running the blender, everything kind of dims a little bit. So we don't want to trust a microwave, and we just kind of...
You're used
to it now. We don't use it.
I think the only thing I really use it for is to make bacon in the morning.
JJ uses it to cook her eggs in the morning, so she has it ready to go. She like microwaves them,
But otherwise, she does everything else. On the
it's
stove
just like if
stove
something
top,
really needs to be heated up really quickly or something like that.
Ours
but
is
otherwise it's oven. Yeah,
it's that if you need to thaw something and this is last minute, you throw it in and de-thaw, or it's like
well, to reheat
defrost.
We don't use it to reheat things because we eat everything all. We don't
yeah,
save leftovers.
You're not leftovers.
I don't know.
All right.
We're really
Food
boring
prep.
the audience talking about food prep.
Food prep.
Hey guys,
But these are,
Look, how much do they pay for this podcast? They're getting their money.
but we've always said this: in between is simply three friends talking, and this is no difference that we would talk about in between the episodes. It's a short one today. We're trying to get out of here. These guys have got to drive back into the heart of Dallas.
Y'all got partners that you got to deal with. I think JJ took Gertie to the park.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be a nice day again, yeah?
Oh, God, yesterday ended up being such a hot day.
It did get warm, yeah.
And I was literally shooting on an old country road with a bunch of flies and stuff, and I was sweating my ass off. So it's supposed to be 21 degrees cooler today. I think I'm going to go outside.
21 degrees cooler?
It was 21 degrees cooler than what it was yesterday.
That's a big change.
It got up to...
My phone is saying it's 59.
Got up to 80-something. It's 59. That's all?
It's 60.
Oh, wow.
60 according to mine right now. So it's about 20 degrees cooler than it was yesterday. But that's typical Texas in the spring where it's up and down and up and down.
I hope it gets a little bit warmer so I can sit on the porch. That's what I love. My favorite thing is to sit on the porch and just kind of stare off in the distance. And
I need to go do I have a fire pit out back, and I love that. Just take a glass of wine, fire pit, and just shut the world out. I think I may do that tonight. Oh, now I got the Academy Awards tonight. Fuck.
That's right.
You don't have to watch it.
Yeah, I do. You're
not legally required.
Yeah, you could just turn the TV towards the window.
It's because I'll be pissed about it, and I'm going to be pissed no matter what. And
you're in the theater. That's right. You're watching in the theater.
All right. I think that's about it. Everyone have a great weekend. We will talk to you next week.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.